Salut, bonjour. Today we're going to look back at the notes that you read and maybe copied from yesterday to talk a little bit more about adjectives and for you also to be able to see how they're pronounced. Since when the adjective is masculine or feminine, singular or plural, that sometimes changes the way that the word is pronounced. Just like we studied in Unit 1, adjectives describe people, places, and things. This is the same in English as it is in French. However, one change is that in French, adjectives typically agree in both gender and number with the nouns or the pronouns that they're modifying. So, for example, in the sentence, Le père est américain, américain is agreeing with le père, and that is saying that the father is American. So you have a singular masculine noun, le père, and a singular masculine adjective, américain. In the next example, as-tu des cours faciles? Do you have easy classes? As-tu des cours faciles? You have a plural masculine noun, des cours, and you have a plural masculine adjective, facile, with an S on the end of it. Remember that facile as an adjective always ends in an E, regardless of whether the noun that you're modifying is masculine or feminine. You've already learned several adjectives of both nationality and some adjectives to describe your classes, and you learned some even already to describe your physical characteristics. Some of these are ones that we studied originally, and some are ones that you may have looked up on your own to describe yourself. Almost all of these adjectives get the E on the end, whether it to change from masculine to feminine. They also almost all end up sounding the same. However, if they sound different in the feminine once you add the E, I will say it first as a masculine singular and then as a feminine singular. If you want to repeat after me to practice how to say the noun or how to say the adjectives, you can certainly do so. Bleu, blanc, blonde, brun, brune, châtain, court, courte, grand, grande, jaune, joli, laid, laide, marron, noir, noire, petit, petite, raide, vert, verte. So a couple of things to notice. Notice that châtain, jaune, marron, and red are going to be the same regardless of whether what you're describing is masculine or feminine. They do not change. Also notice that the adjective marron is only used for describing brown eyes, not for brown hair. If you want to say that something, if that you have brown hair, you could use brun or you could use châtain. Notice that in the examples below, the adjectives are agreeing in gender and number with the subjects. So, elles sont blondes et petites. Your subject is elle, that's a feminine plural subject. Okay, so you're describing the girls, you're describing them, and they are blonde and petite. So your adjectives are feminine singular or feminine plural. In the next example, l'examen est long. Okay, you have a masculine singular noun, l'examen, and a masculine singular adjective, long. If you want to describe something or someone that is of medium size, you would use the expression de taille moyenne. Okay, so it doesn't matter in the first example that we're talking about Victor, who is an who is a man. We're describing his height, and so you would use de taille moyenne. Victor est un homme de taille moyenne. In the next example, again, we're describing a university, which is feminine, but because we're actually describing the size, then it's always going to be de taille moyenne. C'est une université de taille moyenne. Victor est un homme de taille moyenne. As we pointed out earlier, the adjective marrant is invariable. That means that it does not agree in gender and number with the noun that it modifies. And because châtain is used almost exclusively to describe hair color, it is almost always going to be masculine plural. So, mon neveu a les yeux marrons. Notice that marron doesn't have an S on the end of it. My nephew has brown eyes. Mon neveu a les yeux marrons without the S. Ma nièce a les cheveux châtains. My niece has brown hair. Almost always châtain is going to have the S on it, whereas marron will never have an E or an S on the end of it. These are some irregular adjectives, meaning that they don't follow our normal rules. Remember that our normal rules for modifying an adjective was that if the adjective was masculine singular, you didn't do anything to it. If it's feminine singular, you add an E to it. If it's masculine plural, you add an S. And if it's feminine plural, you add an ES to the end of the adjective. However, these adjectives are adjectives that don't fit that rule. Okay, they're completely irregular. So that doesn't matter at all. You just have to memorize the different forms of the adjectives. Okay, so I'm going to go through, I'm going to say each one. You can repeat after me, but notice that we're going to start first with masculine singular, then feminine singular, then masculine plural, then feminine plural. Almost always, feminine singular and feminine plural will sound the same, and the only difference between them will be an S on the end of the feminine plural. However, there are some significant changes between masculine singular and masculine plural. Again, though, the pronunciation isn't necessarily going to change. You will also notice some of these that have no changes between masculine singular and masculine plural. So you just need to pay attention, and you're going to need to study these a lot. So I'm going to start here. Beau, belle, beau, belle. Bon, bonne, bon, bonne. Fier, 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 fier. Gros, grosse, gros, grosse. Heureux, heureuse, heureux, heureuse. Intellectuel, intellectuelle, intellectuel, intellectuelle. Long, longue, long, longue. Naïf, naïve, naïf, naïve. Roux, rousse, roux, rousse. Vieux, vieille, vieux, vieille. So did you notice that the one that has the most significant change between masculine singular and masculine plural is the adjective beau, and that is the fact that it has an X on the end of it instead of an S. If you have adjectives that end in EAU in the masculine singular, then instead of adding an S to make it plural, it's going to add an X to make it plural. Pretty much everything else is just adding an S to the end, and then changes that happen between the masculine and the feminine. So moving on, let's get rid of my little marker. Notice that the forms of the adjective nouveau are going to follow the same pattern as beau. So you have nouveau, nouvelle, nouveau, nouvelle. And that's going to follow that same pattern as beau. You're going to have beau, nouveau, belle, nouvelle, beau, nouveau with the X, belle, nouvelle. Other adjectives that follow the pattern like heureux meaning that you have heureux, heureuse, are curieux, curieuse, malheureux, malheureuse, nerveux, nerveuse, sérieux, sérieuse. Here's another complicated thing. Most adjectives that we've studied previously are placed after the noun they modify. So remember, adjectives go after. So for example, j'ai les yeux verts. Here is your adjective. Okay, il a les cheveux noirs. Here is your adjective. C'est un ami amusant. Here is your adjective. C'est une fille brune. Here is your adjective. So in all of those, the adjectives are going after and the noun goes before. This is opposite for how it is in English. In English, our nouns follow the adjectives. Okay, so just remember that it's reversed in most cases. However, that's not always the case. Okay, but typically adjectives go after, except with certain adjectives. So, the adjectives beau, bon, grand, gros, jeune, joli, long, nouveau, petit, and vieux go after, go before the noun that they modify. So, j'aime bien les grandes familles. I like large families. Joël est un vieux copain. Joël is an old friend. So in those cases, you just have to memorize those. When we get a little bit further in, there are some acronyms that you can use to help you remember which types of adjectives go before the noun. But we'll get into that a little bit later. For now, just remember that those 9 are the ones that you need to remember that go before the noun. There are 3 of the adjectives that we've learned that they have a different form used before a masculine singular noun that begins with a vowel sound. So beau, which is masculine singular, becomes belle, B-E-L, before a masculine noun that begins with a vowel sound. So un bel appartement, a beautiful apartment. Nouveau, which is the masculine singular, becomes nouvelle, N-O-U-V-E-L, before a masculine singular noun with a vowel. So un nouvel ami, a new friend. Vieux, old, becomes vieille, V-I-E-I-L, before a masculine singular noun that begins with a vowel sound. So for example, un vieil homme, an old man. These are ones you'll notice that they sound very similar to the feminine form, but they are spelled differently. They only have one L. So beau becomes belle, nouveau becomes nouvelle, and vieux becomes vieille. And because it becomes vieille before a vowel sound, it ends up sounding like vieille instead of vieille. Okay? These adjectives are also generally placed before a noun. However, sometimes that changes. Mauvais, pauvre, and vrai. And then lastly, the plural indefinite article des, some, changes to de before an adjective that's followed by a noun. So for example, j'habite avec des amis sympathiques. I live with nice friends. In this case, you have des because the adjective comes last, because the adjective comes after. However, if instead of saying des amis sympathiques, you wanted to say de bonnes amies, okay, you wanted to use the adjective bon, which is an adjective that comes before, then that des changes to de. Okay, so let me erase this so that you can see a little bit better. Notice that des becomes de when the adjective comes before the noun. J'habite avec des amis sympathiques. J'habite avec de bons amis when the adjective comes before the noun. And that is it for our notes. That was a lot, but I hope it was helpful to you. I hope it was also helpful to you that you were able to watch this after having had a chance to read through the notes earlier. The rest of today, you're going to do some practice activities, both to practice forming the adjectives based upon whether the noun you're modifying is masculine, feminine, singular, or plural. And you're also going to do some practice about deciding where the adjective goes in relationship to the noun. Does the adjective go before the noun or after the noun?